Hi there, my name's Vince from mymatevince.com, and in this video today we're going to try and fix up this PlayStation 4. This is one of the original models, and it was sent to me by Mike from One Up Gaming Limited over on eBay. And it says on here that the disk drive wasn't ejecting, tested daughterboard fuses, all seem fine. Try to reflow the BD power circuit on the main board, so the thing that controls the Blu-ray drive, and now it won't take a disc at all. Should be a simple fix. Oh, Mike, you've jinxed it now. It's never going to be a simple fix if that's said. But it does appear to turn on fine. Controller connects up fine. It can find my Wi-Fi. Wireless controller works, and it seems to stay on for a good amount of time without overheating or anything like that. But unfortunately, the disc is not doing anything. So if I hit eject down here, it's not even making the noise. And if I try to offer up the disc into it, then it doesn't take it in. If you watch this now, normally when you do this, it will just automatically take the disc in, but look, it's not doing anything. See? In fact, you have to really force it. But now when I take it out, it makes a bit of a noise, and I think that's just because I'm forcing it in. Yeah, so something's definitely not right with it. So let's take it apart and see if we can find out what's happening. So originally it wouldn't eject, so I wonder if the original problem, could it have been just something to do with the button arrangement here? But obviously we now need to find out what's happened when Mike reflowed the board. I'm hoping maybe a capacitor or two has come out of place. But let's get it over to the blue mat, take it apart, and fingers crossed, it might be a simple fix. You never know. Feels like ages since I've worked on one of these. Right, I'm going to strip it all down. I think I'm just going to fast forward through all this bit here because you've probably seen so many teardown videos of these now. So let's just get it right the way down until we get to the board. Let me shout out the My Mate Vince Massive while I do this here. What we got here, is it 500? What does it say? 500. Okay, 500 gigabytes. So the My Mate Vince Massive this month is Operational 117, kitdigital.com, Kip Hakes, Max Rokotansky, Having Fun Repairs, Ellensburg Amplifier Repair and Service, Will Michaelis, Chris Seal, Dorian from Hoover Lux Restorations, Mediasteamer.com, Rob Hughes, Dan Prutton, King Kurd from Lowbook Auto Sales, and Kiki Hobby Repair. So thank you guys. And I almost forgot the legend that is Felipe at MrKeebs.com. First things I want to have a look at is, so the bottom one is the eject, isn't it? So when you press the button there, it's this little contact that goes up, measures the change in resistance or something by your finger being on here. I wonder, is that just a bad contact? I know now obviously there's more problems, but I wonder whether it was just a bad contact on that originally, because that metal thing needs to touch against here, doesn't it? Possibly that was bent out of place or something, or dirt. Just notice the USB port here is damaged. Not that one there, but this one here is the side of it's missing. Right, so all the cables are definitely connected, because here's the drive over here, isn't it? And this is like the daughter board Mike was talking about. So he's checked the fuses on here and it goes down. So I need to, I presume, be looking around here on the board. Or, do you know what? I think it might be on the other side of the board. I need to take it out and have a good look. So those ears look a little bit broken. But I don't think that's going to cause a... Mind you, they were out that way, weren't they? Well, let's have a look at the board first, because I've nearly got it all out. So it could have been as simple as the ears, because the ears were sort of shoving out that way a bit instead of to the side. So if this wasn't making a good contact on there, then this isn't going to have any power. So maybe there's no damage to where the reflow happened on the board. Could be as simple as that. Would be unlikely. It looks quite a nice clean one. Now, from memory, I thought it was up here. Do you know what? It's up here that the... I think this is the bit that controls, because on the PlayStation 4, where I had numerous faults on it, there was some components missing up here. Yay! We have it out. Okay, and the thermal paste looks... oh yeah, still wet enough. Right. So I'm wondering, did Mike reflow this area or the other side of the board? This is all very exciting. Now, detective work time. Well, first of all, actually, should we see what's happening with these USB ports here? That one looks good. That one, not so good, but it doesn't look like it's shorting, does it? So I think that's going to be fine. What's that one on the bottom for? Where should that be? Oh, should that be there? But saying that, this is just plastic at the back there anyway. So it doesn't really matter. No, maybe that should be up there. I don't think that's going to cause an issue. Not going to worry about that. Right, back to here. Now, little fuse there. Should we try that little fuse to begin with? So I've just got my meter set to continuity, so it beeps when the leads touch together. Oh, I was about to say I thought it'd gone. No, it hasn't. Okay, so that must be the main power on that pin there, is it? Yeah, that fuse is okay. Now, that all looks alright, doesn't it? Now, it looks a bit fluxy up here. Yeah, here we go. I think this is where Mike reflowed. Right, is anything out of place? Well, it looks alright to me. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to clean it with IPA, and I think I'm going to put it back together and then see whether or not it was maybe just that connection with the ears that were bent outwards rather than bent to the side. Give you a closer look here so you know what I'm on about. So these here, these were shoved out this way. Like out this way. I've bent them back, but they were up here. So I'm wondering if they were out here, an extra couple of millimeters, would that be enough to... It's unlikely, isn't it? Yeah, it's very unlikely. But I'm going to clean it up anyway. While we're here, let's just check this side, the other side of the board. Now, has any flux happened around here? Maybe, a bit sticky there. Yeah, it is sticky. Maybe this side was reflowed as well. Right, let's have a look here, see if we can see anything out of place. No, I don't think so. That all looks to be okay. It's a bit sticky up here as well. Right, I'm going to clean it all up using this stuff here. Just going to clean in this connector as well, just in case any flux worked its way into here. Actually, that could be a possibility, couldn't it? Now, normally I know just cleaning this, because it's not corrosion, is it? It's flux. I know it wouldn't make any difference. It's just that I know ages ago, Mike sent me some Game Boy games. And I'm pretty sure on one of them, it just needed a really good clean because it was covered with flux, and then it started to work. Now the flux I use, I don't think that would have happened, but I'm not sure what flux Mike has, and maybe he's changed now. But I'm just wondering if it's ever so slightly like corrosive, or whether it's I'm not sure whether it conducts a little bit or something. So I'm just cleaning it up just in case it was enough to knock it out. It's nicer to work on when it's clean anyway. Right, I am going to just pop it back together just to see if it's any different than it was before. Just going to reinsert the cables this side as well. Yeah, these ones are broken as well. Unless of course the ears have been stuck in there. It's hard to tell. I don't think they have. Right, I think that's in enough to test it. So we've got the button here to turn it on, isn't it? And this one at the bottom to eject it. Let's see what happens now. Right, I'm plugged in. Let's see if I put my finger underneath if it will turn on. No, let's see if it will turn on with the disc. Yes, yes it has. There we go. Brilliant. Excellent, that's one thing fixed. And it's spinning up. I think it was the cable that wasn't seated properly. I think the ears, well, or could it be the flux? Who knows? I did too many things at once. I think out of the two though, cleaning with flux or the ears, I think it might be something more to do with the ears, and that cable might not have been seated very well. Right, okay, now eject. I know you shouldn't move it when you've got a disc in. There we go. There we go. So it's working with my finger. So I think the problem is, if you have a look, this is the top one here. Can you see that that one looks, when we press this button here, that one looks kind of nice. Yeah? It doesn't look misshapen or anything. This one looks a bit, I don't know, looks a bit mangled. Doesn't quite look factory. But I've got nothing to compare that to. I just reckon that that is not pushed up against this one here. So let's turn this off. I'm just going to hold this down. So this bit that I'm fast forwarding through actually probably took about 20 minutes. As you've seen, when I put my finger on the button on the board, it worked. But it's only worked once. Every single time I do it now, nothing's happening, whether I use my finger or a piece of metal. So I was trying to rearrange the physical metal of the button to make it seat properly, but I was wasting my time because it doesn't work when you actually press it on the board. So I don't know why it worked that first time, but ever since then, I can't get it to work. So it's a problem on the actual board itself and not the button on the casing. So I'm just going to show you now in this part of the video what happens when you press it, which is absolutely nothing. And then we have to start fault finding from there. Ooh. It's not working now with my finger, is it? Now, what's that about? Now that has got interesting. So, this is going to be the same using metal, isn't it? And it's not doing anything. Does it work if I go elsewhere? No, so it's not the physical button. It's something on this board here. Right, let's shut it down and see if we can follow the traces. And let's zoom in on this section here. Right, now what we got? So, put a multimeter on and just go to continuity. So we're definitely going to have continuity all around here. Yes, that's all fine. Now, is this connected to the board? So, is it down this tiny little trace here? Yes, it is. Where did that go to then? Here? Have we got anything through that resistor? Let's go to ohms. I'll just shout out the reading. Yes, we have 2,000 ohms, and it goes into this chip here. Right, okay. Let me just check for shorts around these capacitors. That must be a ground here. This is all ground, of course. Right, now, so I suppose it could be the chip that's faulty. It did work once though. Why did it work once? Right, let's strip it down a bit more. So remember, this was the original problem, that it wouldn't eject discs even before Mike had a look at it. So we're back now to the original problem. Right, there is a fuse. So let's go across some of the fuses. I know Mike has already done this, but let's just double check. And this must be one here. Right, that's okay. Fuse. Where's that one now? Two, so there must be another one near here somewhere. Let's zoom in even more. F501, but there's nothing here. It doesn't look like there was anything there anyway. So the big problem we've got here is, where is the fault? Is it on this little daughter board, or does it travel through onto the main board? Because we know that a lot of this is controlled by the main board. Now I've got no real way of knowing this. I can't, the fuses are all okay. There's no damage or anything on the board that I can see. So I think what I'm going to have to do is get another PlayStation, take that apart. Now, as far as I know, these little boards, these daughter boards, the disc boards, are married to the main board, so I won't be able to just swap it out. It will have to be fixed. But what I'm thinking is, although it won't read a disc, if I swap over boards and stuff, we can see if it's going to eject, because I'm presuming that the eject side of it is not going to be married to the board. So what I'm going to do in this next part of the video is dismantle another similar PlayStation 4 and see if we can work out if the fault's on the daughter board or the main board. Right, I've got another PlayStation 4 here, and the model number of this one is CUH1116A, which is the same as this. So let's take this one apart and let's see if we can swap out the cable and a few other bits and see if we can just narrow down what the problem is. Right, rather than taking it all apart, I've just taken the back off here. I'm going to just take this board out, and then that will tell me whether it's a fault on the board or not. There you go, so that's what the ears should look like. Can you see one there and one there? Right, so this is a good one here. What I could do is I could put the bad one in this one and see if it ejects. Oh, it's different. I can't swap it over. What? Why is that different? It's the same model number, yet this is different here. Oh, that's annoying, look. See, that one there is much bigger. That's very interesting. So the ribbon cables are different. Well, that's not an option. That's weird, because the model number of the board is the same. The model number of the, the actual PlayStation. Right, okay. Well, that is not an option. What am I going to do now? Well, I suppose I have to take this ribbon cable out. Unless I was to swap over the whole disk drive, that could be an option, couldn't it? Mind you, I wonder would I cause any damage if I was just to put this in here, because all these other ones are related to the drive, but this one is probably related to the eject. Let's see now. Let's give it a go. Yeah, that fits in there. Alright, okay. Yeah. Let's not worry about all of those things. Now let me get the power, plug it in, and see what happens. So this is the good one with the bad board. Let's see if it does anything. No, it doesn't. Right, let's unplug it. And now let's plug in the known working board, but without these cables, and see if it works. It might not. Right, so this is the good board, but without all these cables plugged in. Let's see if this does anything. Yes, brilliant. So that says to me the fault is on here somewhere. Yeah. And 100% it just works with my finger. Let me just see if it does work when I tap it with this. Yeah, it does, yeah. Yeah, any metal even if I don't touch it. Yeah. Right, okay. So now, let me try this board on my one and then we'll definitely know, because right now I'm thinking yes, but is it because this is not compatible with this one here? So I'm going to unplug it again. And now we're going to get the known working board here. And we're going to plug it into my one and see what it does. It should make the noise, shouldn't it? And then we definitely know the fault's on this one here. Be good if it is, because it means I didn't have to take apart the whole PlayStation, because there's a lot of screws in this. I wonder, is it because the years have gone that this might not be seated perfectly into the middle? Let's see now what it's going to do. What do you think? I think it's going to make the noise. Ready? Yes, 100% we now know the fault's on this board somewhere. Brilliant, okay. Good news about that is it doesn't turn the console on, which is nice. Right, perfect. Well, that's a lot of fault finding saved there, isn't it? So, let's... And also we know it's nothing to do with these cables. Now, just to make sure, just in case it was a dodgy seating on that cable, let's put the faulty board back in and try to get that bang in the middle. There. No. Excellent. Brilliant news. Oh, I am enjoying this one. Right, now, let the fault finding begin. I hope I can do this now without power going into it. I suppose, should we check for shorts around here? That is the nearest chip to it. So I checked for shorts to ground on both chips, the good and the bad one, and they're identical. I can't see any difference in between them. So what I decided to do is connect the boards back into the PlayStation and put power into it. I don't turn it on, I just put the power into the back so it's ready to eject. And I make a note of all the voltage readings on the pins on the good chip. And I'm just going to show you that now. Right, well that's interesting. So basically, most of them are 0 volts, apart from these ones here. So now I just need to double check that on the other one. So we've got 1 volt here. This is the pin down here that gives us the, every time we touch it, it tries to turn it on. But it looks like all the voltages are coming down this side here. So let's unplug this and put in our board here. 40 board, and see if the readings are the same. Now obviously if all the cables were connected maybe the readings would be different, but all I'm worried about at the moment is the little eject button. Right, so this is the faulty board and it's not doing anything. So now I'm just going to measure these ones here and see if it's doing the same, or hopefully it will be doing something different. This should be, yeah, that should be 3.2. Ah, that's reading 3.2. These are giving different readings. 3.2. That's only 2.2, it should be 3.2. That should be 1.5. That's not reading anything. This one should be 3.2. That's 2.9. It's definitely giving weird readings. I bet this chip has failed. Let's look up what this chip is. See if we can get a data sheet. Right, okay. I'm struggling a little bit to find a data sheet, but because when I hit this one, there's just loads of different ones. But anyway, I don't need to really know about it because it says here, touch sensing evaluation kit. So obviously touch sensing, this is the thing that must deal with the touch sensing here, which is great news. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to see if I've got any, I've got a job lot off old boards, but they're the PlayStation 4 main boards. I'm just going to see if there's any of these thrown in there with it. I don't think there was. What I might do is you can buy them from, I think it was AliExpress. Let's get rid of that. I think they were £1.50. Okay, well £2 there, but that's out of stock. But I'm sure I'll be able to get that on eBay very cheaply. In fact, I'll have a quick look. No, surprisingly, it wasn't on eBay, but look at this. I was just looking through some images, and this one here is outlining this chip here. It's in a different language, but STM8ED, and it's showing it on what looks like possibly the main board. So I'm going to get my spare boards. Maybe this chip is all over the place. Maybe there's one of these for here, and actually there's going to be another one for the touch button at the top as well, so I can maybe nick the one for the power button. Fantastic. Here we go. This is one of the old boards. It's great because I think I paid like 50 quid and I must have got about 6 or 7 boards. And I've been using, what was I using on them? What's it called? The retimer chip. That one up there, you can see it's all very, these are all heavily damaged, but who cares? Right now, so I'm looking for an STM85D. STM8ED, that's the fella. Fantastic. Now it could be faulty, but it's unlikely. I'm going to take that one off. I'm going to take this one off. I'm going to swap them over, and hopefully, you never know, it might work. If not, we can fault find further from there. And I've just had a little look through the eye loop here, and we know on my one over here that the third one up from the end here near the D is the one that goes off to the actual button. And if you have a look here, let me zoom in, you can see that we have the same setup. So although this is for the power button, it's exactly the same setup. So it is the same chip, which we know by the markings anyway. But if you have a look here, get the needle. So 3 up from this side, 1, 2, 3, because you know that's their one with the you can see here, so it's going to be in that orientation. Yeah, so that one goes off to here, and have a look, resistor, that weird capacitor looking thing, through the hole here, and if we go the other side of the board, that hole will lead to here. Fantastic. Oh, I'm really pleased with this little bit of fault finding. Right, let's put some flux on this and take it off. I hope it is this now. Maybe it's some voltage feeding this that's gone. Right, I've got my temperature at 480 degrees Celsius and my airflow is 5 out of 8. Let's see if that's going to be enough. I don't care if I damage this board anyway because it's just used for parts. I'm going to put my airflow actually to 6 out of 8 because this board's quite thick. Maybe on the other board I can have it less because it's a lot thinner. A little daughter board. I'm really happy with this one so far. I hope it's going to edit down to a nice length video. Where it will start to drag on is if I change this chip over and it still doesn't work. There we go, excellent, and there's no heat pads or anything underneath that. So that came off nice and easy. Let's put that board to one side. And now let's get the 40 one. And we're not worried about this side here, so there's nothing that can fall off. So this should come off nice and easy, I'm hoping. Get some flux around there. And what I'll probably do is I think I'm going to put this one straight on here. I'm not going to change over from unleaded. Which way is it going? It's going to be going that way, isn't it? Yep. So I'm going to get that one ready. And while the board's still hot, hopefully I'll be able to take that, put the next one on. Just going to zoom in a little bit more so I can see it closer when I put the next one on. Right, so that one's off. Let's pop this one on. There we go, that's in place. You've seen it gave a nice big dance across and back. So the surface tension pulled it in. Just going to let that cool. I'm going to clean it with some IPA. Have to pour some new stuff because I spilt it. And we'll see if that's going to work. Right, there we go. So I think that they are all in place. You've seen that the surface tension pulled it right the way back in. To be fair, it looks as good as it did before. That was actually, I'm not saying it's going to work, but that was a nice easy chip to change over because there wasn't a big heat pad in the middle sucking away all the heat. So that was a real nice one to do. Right, let's put it on and see if it's going to do anything. Here goes. Fingers crossed. Come on. Ready? Oh, annoying. Oh, what? Oh no, that's annoying. Oh, I thought that was going to work. Oh, it's going to be another really long video. Right, let's just see. I suppose the voltages are going to be the same as the other chip. I mean, there's a chance that chip's faulty, but I think it's unlikely. 2.1, so is the problem over this side? That's 2.2, that should be 3.2. So is that the problem? Is it that rail there with all the capacitors? Right, okay, let's zoom right in. Let's start on that rail, I think. So, all this one here is reading 2.2. What's it reading here? 3.2. Is that the problem? Could it be as simple as that resistor? Maybe this is the voltage one coming in here and the resistor's knocking it down to 2.2 when it should be 3.2. It might be that. Right, let's pull power to this. Okay, and I just want to let the electricity drain out of that. Let's see what this resistor is reading on this working board. Right, so that's 47,000 ohms, yeah? Now, let's disconnect this board completely. 47,000. See what this is reading. Now, that's the same, isn't it? That's the same. But yeah, we've got 3.2 there. Why have we not got 3.2 there? I wonder if I was to inject 3.2 volts here, would that allow me to press the button? If I was to keep the current low, surely it would be okay, wouldn't it? Because it's just going like the power's going in with parallel with it. What, am I going to fry something? You know what? I'm going to give it a go. Right, here goes. So I've plugged in the power supply here. The actual PlayStation 4 power supply. It's still not working. So now, let me get my little needle. I've got my bench power supply here. I've got it set to 3.2 volts, and if you have a look, it's 250 millivolts. Yeah, so 0.25 amps. Let's see what it's going to do. So I'm going to use the needle. Now I need to get a ground, which I'm just going to use here. Is that going to be okay? Yes. And I just want to double check with my eye loop I'm going to be in the right place. I can do the resistor there, can't I? So I'm going to hold this here. Oh god, here goes. Ooh. Hold this here. Got the shakes. And here goes. Right, I'm on it. Brilliant. Did you hear that? Did you hear that? Yes. Let's do that again. So it's because it's not getting 3.2 volts. Right. Brilliant. Is it doing it now? Oh. Have I just sparked it back into life? Have I sparked it back into life? Let's see now. Imagine that. Let's get my multimeter. Is it still going? It's still going. Let's see what voltage is reading now. No, 2.1. What's going on? 2.1 is very low. Well, isn't that strange? Well, what have I done there? Have I sort of somehow... Maybe this somehow needed resetting, and by putting voltage in like that it resets itself. Oh. I bet if I put that chip back onto it now it would do exactly the same thing. So why is, I mean that's definitely one for the comments, why is it working now? You've seen how many times I hit it before. When I first of all put it together it worked, and then it stopped working for what? I must have been hitting this all around here 50, 60 more times, and now look, every time it's working just by applying 3.2 volts to that resistor, which is going into the chip there. How bizarre. Do you know what, I'll probably put it back together and then it will stop working, but that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to put it back together. I don't see the point of changing out the resistor if it's measuring the same as the other one. I think it's just a really interesting one. Hopefully people have the answer to that down in the comments. Let's get this back together, and maybe when I connect all the cables up it won't have enough power to do it again once everything's connected up in circuit. And I think I am going to, yeah, I'm gonna put new thermal paste on stuff on it as well. So no point in me showing you that. I'm just going to do that now off camera, and we'll see if it's still working at the ends. I'm unplugged now. How interesting. Right, next time you see this, it'll be back together. So, guess what happened? Yes, you guessed correctly. I put it back together. Luckily, I only did half the screws. I went to press eject, and it didn't work. So, I put more voltage into it, and when it's on, it keeps on working. That button will keep on working. You could hit it 100 times and it will work. As soon as you turn it off and turn it back on again, it won't work anymore. So we're kind of back to where we were. Now, I was thinking it must be related to perhaps the resistor. So what I did is I bridged the resistor just with some tweezers, and then sure enough, it works, because that way we're putting 3.2 volts into that line by the capacitors and the other side of the resistor, because we've bridged it, because we know that one side of the resistor is 3.2 volts, the other side is 2.1 volts. So I'm sort of thinking, is it a problem with the resistor? So what I then do is I use the hot air and I take the resistor off, because I want to see, is the 2.1 volts being generated from the 3.2 volts via the resistor, or is it its own little line? And when I take the resistor off, sure enough, both pads, one pad has 3.2 volts and the other pad has 2.1 volts. So I don't really know what the resistor's there for, but each line's got its own voltage in its own right. So what I now need to do is, well, I'm tempted to just bridge the resistor, but I don't really know what problems that's going to occur. Will it then have phantom ejects all the time in the middle of the game, or for example every time you've got it in standby, will it just keep beeping at you? So I really want to try to find the actual problem rather than doing a workaround bodge. So what you see in this next part of the video is me trying to trace the actual problem once the resistor is off the board. Let me tell you where I am now. So what I did is I took off the resistor. This tiny little speck of dust down here is the resistor from here, the one I was on about bridging. And when I go across the top side, even without the resistor, it's like 3.2 or 3.3 volts, whatever it is, and it's 2.2 at the bottom. So it's not getting its power through the resistor, if that makes sense. The power's coming from elsewhere. So what I've been doing is, I can see there's like a via here where it's the, let's call it low on power, because we know it needs to be 3.2 and it's only 2.1. That goes to a via here, but it doesn't go anywhere. It looks like it's just isolated there. But what I have been doing is I have been just using continuity, and from here I found out that it was coming up here onto these ones here, and then from here I was going around the board, and I've worked out now it's coming all the way up to this pin here, there, up to this pin up here, yeah, and then it's going into what looks like the very first pin. Now let me zoom in, because I was looking on this side, everything looks fine, but then when I look on the inside, that particular pin looks only a fraction of a millimetre lower than the others. Let me show you what it looks like. So we're talking about this pin here. Yeah, so this is like the 2.2 volts rather than, or 2.1 rather than 3.2. Now if we go have a look in here, it's going to be really, really hard to see. But can you see all the pins at the bottom? You can see they're all nice and gold. But let's see now if you can see on this side here. Let's make it nice and steady for you. Can you see that that pin is much lower? Much, much lower. I mean, look at the black bits underneath all these gold pins at the bottom. Let's get a needle. So you can see that there's a nice fraction of a millimetre under every, or about a millimetre, maybe not, half a millimetre under each and every one of these. Maybe not the end one there, but look, under all these ones there are, but not under that one. So I am going to get the needle. Let's see if I can force that up. You know what, even the needle's too big. Get a smaller needle. There we go. In fact, I've pushed that too far up now. Going cross-eyed, it's so small. Let's see if it even pushes. If it pushes in, the cable might just push it back down. Right, let's have a look. Let's get the bottom one in first. Well, let's see. It's working, but remember I haven't got the resistor in there. So I think it was that connection there. So again, maybe if it had a drop, maybe the impact slightly, oh, who knows, who knows. I'm going to unplug it, plug it in again. Yeah. Right, let me get that resistor back in, and yeah, I think it was a bad connection in there. Not quite as interesting as changing the chip over, is it? But still, if it works, that's the fault. Right, let's get a bit of flux. Try to get this little fella back on. Just gonna get my head in the way for a few minutes. I'm going to lower the airflow down to 4 out of 8, still 480 degrees Celsius, and let's see if we can heat this back into place. Surface tension might pull it back in. Oh, look at that, it's like magic, brilliant. How nice was that? That was the best part of the video. Right, okay, clean it with IPA, put it back together, and yeah, I think once I tape those leads down, I'm hoping then they will stay in position and keep on working then. So I don't think changing the lead would have made any difference. It would look like the actual connector itself was to blame. Right, I've just put this part here back together. The rest of the screws are not in yet. But look, every single time I do it, it's working. Even if, I'm not going to go crazy on here, but look, even if somebody was to be moving it around the place, hitting that, it's still working every single time. So I do actually think that this is now fixed. So put it back together, clean it, and then I'll show you it working, hopefully playing and ejecting many times. Right, even after all my struggles, it still wasn't working when I put the bottom plate on, but now it is. I just had to really position that. Every single time I put it in, that metal clip was coming up this side here. It was bending this way rather than bending that way. So you have to kind of have it quite flat, but then not too flat, otherwise it's not going to hit the board. But look, it's working every time now. Yes! It is working, so you can see there Gran Turismo working, and if I was to hit eject, you can see there that it now comes out. You coming out? Oh yeah, there you go, it's just winding down. Right, so put it back in. And eject. So it is working, and I've pressed it quite a few times already. So what was wrong with this one then? This is what I think. The cable. Initially I don't reckon the cable was fully inserted, and that's why it was completely dead. So the original problem with this was the fact that it wouldn't eject, but discs would work. After Mike reflowed the board, I think he thought he might have done some damage to the board. In my opinion, I mean, it could have been the flux, but I think it was just that the cable wasn't inserted fully because of those ears. You really have to press that button down when you take the cable out, otherwise those ears snap off. The ears in this case didn't snap, they bent upwards, so I don't think it was fully inserting in as much as it needed to, because the ears were basically stopping the cable going in fully. Then what really became complicated was the fact that that button wasn't working. Now you've seen that I changed the chip, I was doing all that fault finding, and I think the end thing is that I pinpointed it onto that pin number 1, which was just up a fraction of a millimeter compared to all the others. When I put that back down in place, it started to work. So yeah, it was a kind of one that led me around in circles a bit, but the bottom line is I think the cable was faulty because of the ears, and I think the cable connector was faulty because one of the pins was pushed down too much. So in hindsight, of course, I didn't need to change that chip. I just thought that chip was faulty, then I thought it might have been the resistor, so it led me on a bit of a wild goose chase. But there was a bit of learning going on there. I now know that that chip is to do with touch. Hopefully that might help other people out in the future, or maybe not. Maybe that chip is incredibly reliable and maybe it never goes faulty. But either way, it was nice fault finding it and eventually getting something which is now working every single time. So a massive thumbs up to Mike for sending this in the box of goodies, and I hope you all enjoyed this video. If you did, give it a thumbs up and please subscribe for more videos. Take care everyone.